Day 1, the first time he walked into Midnight Lounge. I almost didn't notice him. Almost thought it was a Tuesday slow night. Just a handful of regulars nursing drinks and pretending they had somewhere better to be. I was wiping down the bar, mentally, calculating if my tips would cover this month's rent, when the door opened and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair and darker eyes that swept the room with the kind of assessment that spoke of danger. Everything about him screamed money and power, the perfectly tailored black suit, the expensive watch catching, the low lighting, the way he moved like he owned every space he entered. And maybe he did. This was his neighborhood after all. Everyone knew who controlled this part of the city. Even if we pretended not to, he chose the corner of the bar, the seat that gave him a view of both the entrance and the back exit. Smart. Paranoid. Necessary for a man in his position. "What can I get you?" I asked, keeping my voice professional, neutral. Rule 1 of bartending in this neighborhood: don't ask questions, don't make assumptions, don't get involved. Macallan, 25. Neat. His voice was deep, accented Italian, I thought. He didn't look at me when he ordered, his eyes still scanning the room. I poured the expensive scotch, we kept it on hand for exactly this type of clientele, and set it in front of him. $45. He pulled out cash, laying down 100 without asking for change. Our eyes met for the first time, and I felt something electric pass between us. His eyes were nearly black in the dim lighting, intelligent and assessing. "Keep it," he said simply. I nodded my thanks and moved away, giving him space. The rest of the night, I was hyper-aware of him sitting there, nursing his single drink for 2 hours, watching everything and everyone. He left at 11:30 exactly, and I released a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Day 47, he came every Tuesday and Thursday. Always at 9:30, always the same seat, always Macallan 25 neat. Always a $100 bill, always keep it. We didn't talk beyond my "what can I get you?" and his order. But I learned things anyway. The way he took exactly 1 hour to finish his drink, never rushed, never lingering longer. The way his eyes tracked every person who entered, categorizing threat levels with the precision of someone who'd survived by being observant. The way he dressed, always black, always expensive, always concealing what I suspected were weapons and scars in equal measure. And the way he watched me when he thought I wasn't looking. "Who is he?" Jenna, my coworker, whispered one Thursday night. "He's been coming here for weeks and he never talks to anyone. Just sits there looking dangerous and gorgeous." "I don't know and I don't want to know." I lied. Because I did know, or at least I knew enough. Luca Caruso, head of the Caruso crime family, owner of half the businesses in this neighborhood, including, I suspected, the bar where I worked. A man whose name people whispered with fear and respect in equal measure. And for some reason, he'd made my bar his regular spot. "He tips you like crazy, though," Jenna continued. "Must be nice having a sugar daddy." "He's not my sugar daddy. He's just a generous tipper." I moved away to serve another customer, but I felt Luca's eyes on me the entire time. Day 152, 5 months in. I could pour his drink before he ordered it. I'd have the Macallan ready when he walked through the door at exactly 9:30. Set it on his corner spot, and he'd nod his thanks without a word. We still didn't talk. Not really. But the silence between us had become comfortable, familiar, like we were two people who understood that words weren't always necessary. "You have a good memory," he said one Thursday, his first unsolicited comment in 5 months. Occupational necessity. "Customers like it when you remember their order." Is that all I am? A customer? His dark eyes held mine, intense and searching. What else would you be? I kept my voice carefully neutral. "I don't know yet." He took a sip of his scotch. "What's your name?" "Your real name, not the one on your name tag." I glanced at my name tag. It read Sarah, which was close enough to my real name without being exact. "Sarah's real enough." "Liar!" But he smiled slightly, the first real smile I'd seen from him. It transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. "But I can be patient." "I'm very good at being patient when I want something." "And what do you want?" "I'll let you know when I figure it out." He finished his drink, left his usual 100, and walked out at 11:30 exactly. I stood there holding the bill and trying to calm my racing heart. This was bad. Getting noticed by a man like Luca Caruso was dangerous. Getting noticed by him in a way that suggested interest was potentially fatal. I should quit. Find another bar, another neighborhood, another city. That's what I'd done before when things got complicated. But for some reason, I couldn't bring myself to run. Not yet. Day 247, 8 months. That's how long he'd been coming to my bar, sitting in his corner, watching me work. 8 months of carefully maintained distance, of professional politeness, of pretending the tension between us wasn't building to something inevitable. You're good at this, he observed one Tuesday, watching me mix a complex cocktail for another customer. Not just making drinks, reading people, knowing what they need before they ask. It's my job. I slid the cocktail down the bar with practiced ease. It's a talent. He swirled the scotch in his glass. You could do better than this place. Better neighborhood, better clientele, better tips. I like this place. Mostly true. It's comfortable. Comfortable. He repeated the word like it was foreign. That's what you want? Comfortable? That's what I need. I met his eyes. Some of us don't get to want things, Mr. Caruso. We just survive. His expression shifted, something like recognition flickering across his features. So you know who I am. Everyone knows who you are. And yet you've never asked me for anything. Never tried to leverage our acquaintance. Never even acted nervous around me. He leaned forward slightly. Why? Because I mind my own business. I pour drinks, I collect tips, I go home. Your business is yours, Mr. Caruso. I don't want any part of it. Luca. His voice dropped lower. If I'm going to keep coming here, keep sitting at your bar, you should at least use my first name. I don't think that's appropriate. Sarah. The way he said my fake name made it sound like a caress. I've been coming here for 8 months. I've never missed a Tuesday or Thursday. I sit at your bar for exactly 1 hour, drink 1 scotch, and leave you $100 tip. Don't. You think that's earned us at least first name familiarity? He had a point. Fine, Luca it is. Better. He finished his drink. Walk you to your car tonight. I don't have a car. Then walk you home. I'm working until 2 a.m. I'll wait. Said like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like a crime boss waiting. 3 hours just to walk a bartender home was perfectly normal. That's not necessary. It's after midnight in a dangerous neighborhood. It's very necessary. His tone left no room for argument. I'll be here when you finish your shift. He moved to a booth, pulled out a phone, and proceeded to conduct what looked like business for the next 3 hours. And when my shift ended at 2, he was there, waiting by the door with the patience of a man who'd learned that the best things were worth waiting for. This is really not. I started as we stepped out into the cool night air. Necessary, I know. You said that already. He fell into step beside me, his presence large and protective. Which way? I pointed, and we walked in silence for a few blocks. He kept himself between me and the street, his eyes constantly scanning our surroundings. Protecting me without being asked, without making it obvious. You do this often? I asked. Walk random bartenders home. You're not random, and no, I don't. He glanced at me. You're the first person in years who's treated me like a man instead of a title. That's rare, valuable. I'm just doing my job. No, you're being human. There's a difference. We stopped at my building, a modest walk-up in a neighborhood that was trying hard to be respectable. This is you? This is me. I'd pulled out my keys. Thank you for the walk. You didn't have to. I know. He didn't move away. Sarah, or whatever your real name is. Be careful. This neighborhood, it's not as safe as you think. And if you ever need anything protection, money, a favor, you come to me. Understood? Why would you offer me that? Because I protect what's mine, he said it simply, like it was obvious. And you've been mine since the first night I walked into that bar. You just don't know it yet. Before I could respond to that shocking declaration, he was gone, disappearing into the shadows like he'd never been there at all. I stood on my steps for a long time, trying to process what had just happened. Luca Caruso, dangerous crime boss, most feared man in the city, had just claimed me as his. Not aggressively, not threateningly. Just stated it as fact, like the sky being blue or water being wet. I should have been terrified. Should have packed my bags and run like I'd run before. Instead, I touched my lips and wondered what it would be like to be truly protected by someone who meant it. Day 275. Things changed after the night he walked me home. Not drastically. Luca still came every Tuesday and Thursday at 9:30 sharp, still ordered his Macallan 25 neat, still left a $100 bill. But now, when I finished my shift, he'd be waiting by the door to walk me home. Every single time. You know this is excessive, right? I said one Thursday as we made the familiar walk to my apartment. I've been walking home alone for 2 years. I can handle myself. I'm sure you can. His hand hovered at my lower back. Not quite touching, but close enough that I could feel the heat. But why should you have to? Because I'm a grown woman who doesn't need a bodyguard? Everyone needs protection, Sarah. Some people are just too stubborn to accept it. He glanced down at me, his dark eyes catching the streetlight. Besides, I like these walks. They're the best part of my week. I stopped walking, staring at him. The best part of your week is walking a bartender home at 2 in the morning. Yes. No hesitation, no embarrassment. Just simple honesty. The best part is spending time with the only person in this city who looks at me and sees a man instead of a monster. Luca, I know what I am, Sarah. I'm not under any illusions. He started walking again and I hurried to keep up. I've killed people, hurt people, done things that would give you nightmares. But when you pour my drink and give me that little smile, you don't see any of that. You just see a customer who tips well. Is that what you want? To be seen as ordinary. I want to be seen as human. He stopped at my building, his usual dropping off point. Even monsters want that sometimes. I should have gone inside. Should have said goodnight and locked the door between us. Instead, I heard myself ask, "Do you want to come up? For coffee?" His eyes widened slightly, the first sign of genuine surprise I'd ever seen from him. Coffee. Yes, coffee. The drink. Hot, caffeinated, sometimes with sugar. I was babbling now, nervous. I make terrible coffee, but it's drinkable. Mostly, if you're interested. I'm very interested. His voice dropped lower, rougher. In the coffee, of course. Of course. I unlocked the door, hyper-aware of him following me up 3 flights of stairs to my modest apartment. It wasn't much a studio with a kitchen alcove, a bed tucked in the corner, a couch that had seen better days. But it was clean, and it was mine, and I'd worked hard to keep it. Nice place, Luca said, his eyes scanning the room with that same assessing gaze he used in the bar. Looking for exits, threats, vulnerabilities. Small but comfortable. That word again. I moved to the kitchen, grateful for something to do with my hands. Comfortable seems to be my theme. Nothing wrong with comfortable. He settled on the couch, looking far too large for the space. Though I'd argue you deserve better than this neighborhood, this apartment, this life, this all I've got. I measured out coffee grounds, my hands shaking slightly. Some of us don't get to choose luxury. Why not? When I didn't answer, he continued, "You're smart, talented, beautiful. You could work anywhere, do anything. So why here? Why this bar in this neighborhood? Why a fake name and an apartment that's barely big enough for one person?" I turned to face him. "How do you know it's a fake name?" "Because I had you investigated 3 months ago." He said it casually, like it was normal. Sarah Mitchell. Born in Ohio, moved here 2 years ago. No family, no friends, no history before that. It's a good identity, solid paperwork, believable backstory. But it's not real. My heart hammered against my ribs. You investigated me? Of course I did. You're the only person in the city I'd let get close in 3 years. I needed to know who you really were. He stood, moving toward me with that predatory grace. Want to know what I found? What? The word came out as a whisper. Nothing. Absolutely nothing before 2 years ago. Which means you're running from something. Or someone. He was close now, close enough that I could smell his cologne, expensive, masculine, with hints of cedar and smoke. So I'll ask again. Sarah, or whatever your real name is, who are you running from? I should have lied. Should have maintained the cover story I'd built so carefully. But looking into his dark eyes, seeing genuine concern beneath the dangerous exterior, I found myself telling the truth. My ex-husband. The words felt like glass in my throat. His name is Marcus Kane. He was controlling, abusive. When I tried to leave, he said he'd kill me. Said he'd find me wherever I went and make me pay for embarrassing him. Luca's expression went from concern to deadly in a heartbeat. Where is he now? Chicago. At least that's where he was 2 years ago when I ran. I changed my name, moved here, tried to disappear. But I'm always waiting for him to find me. I wrapped my arms around myself. That's why I work at your bar. Cash tips, no paper trail, a neighborhood where people mind their own business. He won't find you. Luca's voice was ice and steel. I'll make sure of it. You can't promise that. I can, and I do. He closed the remaining distance between us, his hands finding my shoulders. You're under my protection now, Sarah. Mine. That means anyone who threatens you threatens me. And people who threaten me end up dead. I don't want you killing people for me. Too late. His thumb traced my cheekbone, gentle despite the violence in his words. I've been protecting you for months without you knowing. Do you think it's a coincidence that your building suddenly got better security? That the drug dealers who used to operate on your corner disappeared? That your landlord stopped trying to raise your rent? I stared at him, pieces clicking into place. That was you. All me. From the first night I walked you home, I've been making sure you're safe. Making sure this neighborhood is safe for you. His hand slid to cut my face. Because I meant what I said, Sarah. You're mine. Have been since. The first time you poured my drink and looked at me like I was human? That's crazy. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you work double shifts to make rent. I know you give free drinks to the old man who comes in every Thursday because he's lonely. I know you walk home alone at 2 a.m. through dangerous streets without complaint because you're too proud to ask for help. I know you're brave and stubborn and too good for the life you're living. His forehead touched mine. And I know that I haven't been able to stop thinking about you for 10 months. That I go to sleep seeing your face and wake up planning excuses to spend more time at your bar. That I'm obsessed with you in a way that should probably concern both of us. Luca, I'm not asking you to love me. Not yet. But I am asking you to let me protect you. Let me move you somewhere safer. Somewhere that bastard ex-husband will never find you. Let me give you the life you deserve instead of the one you're settling for. I can't just accept that from you. I'd owe you. You owe me nothing. His voice was fierce. This isn't a transaction, Sarah. This is me claiming what's mine. And you're mine whether you've accepted it yet or not. The coffee machine beeped, breaking the intensity of the moment. I pulled away, needing space to think. This is moving too fast. You're talking about moving me, protecting me, claiming me. We've barely had a real conversation. We've had 10 months of conversations without words. I know you better than I've known anyone. He didn't follow me to the kitchen, giving me space. But you're right. This is fast. So here's what we'll do. You think about it. Think about letting me take care of you properly. And in the meantime, I'll keep coming to your bar, keep walking you home, keep making sure you're safe. No pressure, no expectations, just possibility. I poured 2 cups of coffee with shaking hands. And if I say no, if I decide I don't want your protection or your claiming, then I'll respect that. But his eyes said he already knew what my answer would be. Though I'll still make sure you're safe. Can't help that. It's not negotiable. Possessive much? Extremely. He accepted the coffee, taking a sip. You were right. This is terrible coffee. Despite everything, I laughed. I warned you. You did. He set down the cup. I should go. It's late and you need sleep. But Sarah? Thank you for trusting me with the truth about your ex. I promise you he'll never hurt you again. How can you promise that? Because as of tomorrow morning, I'll have people watching him. Making sure he stays in Chicago, far away from you. And if he does try to come here, if he does try to find you. His smile was cold and deadly. He'll disappear. Permanently. He moved to the door, then paused. One more thing. How long is your lease on this place? 2 months left. Why? Because in 2 months you're moving. Somewhere better, somewhere I can protect you properly. You can argue with me about it later, but it's happening. Consider this your advance notice. He opened the door. Good night, Sarah. I'll see you Tuesday. After he left, I sat on my terrible couch, drinking my terrible coffee, and tried to process what had just happened. Luca Caruso had just declared me his, had been protecting me for months, had threatened to kill my ex-husband if he came near me, had decided I was moving in 2 months whether I agreed or not. It should have terrified me. The possessiveness, the certainty, the casual violence. But instead, I felt safe. For the first time in 2 years, I felt like maybe I could stop running. Stop looking over my shoulder. Stop living in fear that Marcus would find me and make good on his threats, because I had something now that I hadn't had before. Protection. Real. Dangerous, absolute protection from a man who meant every word he said. I touched my face where his hand had been, remembering the gentleness mixed with possession. Luca Caruso was dangerous, violent, and absolutely ruthless, but with me he'd been careful. Protective. Almost tender. Maybe monsters could be gentle. Maybe they just needed someone worth being gentle for. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Sleep well. You're safe. Lee saved the number and sent back. How did you get my number? His response was immediate. I have my ways. Also, new locks are being installed on your door tomorrow. Better ones. The current ones are a joke, possessive and controlling. Great combination, you have no idea. Good night, Sarah. I fell asleep smiling. And for the first time in 2 years, I didn't have nightmares about Marcus finding me. Day 289, true to his word. New locks appeared on my door the next morning. Professional grade, the kind that would take serious effort to break through. The locksmith, clearly one of Luca's men, refused payment and was gone before I could ask questions. That night at work, Luca arrived at exactly 9:30 with his usual Macallan already waiting. But instead of his normal silent observation, he spoke immediately. The locks are good? They're excessive. I wiped down the bar. My old ones worked fine. Your old ones could be picked by a motivated 12-year-old. He took a sip of his scotch. The new ones require actual skill. And tools. Better. You're very presumptuous, you know that? I'm very thorough. There's a difference. His eyes tracked a group of men who'd just entered, assessing, categorizing, dismissing them as threats. Also, I need to tell you something about your ex-husband. My hand stilled on the bar. What about him? He's been asking questions. Hired a private investigator last week to look for you. The investigator is no longer an issue. And Marcus has been strongly encouraged to stop looking. Strongly encouraged how? Do you really want to know? His voice was gentle, but his eyes were hard. I thought about it. Did I want to know if Luca had hurt people on my behalf? If he'd used violence and intimidation to keep Marcus away from me? No, I admitted. I don't want to know. I just want him to leave me alone. He will. I've made sure of it. Luca finished his drink, then added, also, I bought your building. I nearly dropped the glass I was holding. You what? Bought your building. Well, technically I bought the whole block. But your building was the priority. He said it like he was discussing the weather. Your landlord was planning to sell to developers who'd evict everyone and turn it into condos. Now I own it, and your rent is permanently fixed at what you're currently paying. Luca, you can't just buy my building. Already done. Closed yesterday. Your neighbors are also being protected from eviction and rent increases. Consider it community investment. He pulled out his wallet, but instead of the usual 100, he laid down $500 bills. Also, I'm taking next week off. Business trip to Italy. I'll have someone else walking you home. I don't need someone walking me home. Not negotiable. His eyes met mine, fierce and possessive. You're mine to protect, Sarah. When I can't do it personally, someone I trust will. Marco will be here Tuesday and Thursday at 2 a.m. He's good people, my second in command, completely trustworthy. This is ridiculous. I've been taking care of myself for years, and now you don't have to. He stood, moving around the bar to stand directly in front of me. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. I know this is fast. I know I'm being possessive and controlling and probably scaring you. But Sarah, I meant every word I said. You're mine. And I protect what's mine with everything I have. I'm not an object to be owned. No, you're a woman who deserves to feel safe. Who deserves to sleep without nightmares. Who deserves someone willing to burn the world down to keep her protected. His hand came up to cut my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone. Let me be that for you, please. The please broke me. This dangerous, powerful man was asking, not demanding, asking for permission to protect me. Okay, I whispered. But we need rules, boundaries. This can't just be you making all the decisions. Agreed. Let's have dinner when I get back. Real dinner, not just you working while I watch. We'll discuss boundaries, expectations, whatever you need. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, brief, chaste, but it sent electricity through my entire body. I'll be back in a week. Try not to miss me too much. Arrogant, I accused, but I was smiling. Confident. There's a difference. He headed for the door, then paused. Sarah, thank you. For giving me a chance. For not running. I know I'm a lot to handle. That's putting it mildly. His laugh was warm and genuine. I'll text you. Every day, so you know I'm thinking about you. He was true to his word. Every day he was gone, I received texts. Day 1. Made it to Rome. The coffee here is better than yours, which isn't saying much. Day 2. Meeting with suppliers went well. Nobody tried to kill me, which is always a plus. How was work? Day 3. Miss your terrible coffee and even worse jokes. Come to Italy with me next time. Day 4. Bought you something. You'll hate it because it's expensive, but I don't care. Day 5. Almost done here. Can't wait to see you Tuesday. I found myself smiling at my phone constantly, crafting responses that were sarcastic and warm in equal measure. Jenna noticed immediately. Okay, who is he? She demanded Thursday night while we were restocking. You've been glued to your phone all week, grinning like an idiot. Please tell me it's the hot guy in the corner who tips like a millionaire. His name is Luca. I couldn't help the smile. And it's single quotes S. Complicated. Complicated how? Married? Secret family? Witness protection? More like dangerously protective crime boss who's decided I'm his. I said it lightly, but Jenna's eyes went wide. Wait, are you serious? The Luca Caruso is into you? She glanced around, lowering her voice. Ava, that's either really good or really bad. There's no in-between with men like him. I know. I did know. But Jenna, when I'm with him, I feel safe for the first time in years. He knows about Marcus, about why I ran, and he's protecting me. Actually protecting me, not just saying he will. Just be careful, okay? Men like that, they don't do casual. If you're his, completely. That's a lot of intensity to handle. I'm starting to realize that. Day 296, Luca returned on Tuesday, arriving at the bar at exactly 9:30 with a small wrapped box. He set it on the bar beside his usual scotch. I said you'd hate it, he said by way of greeting. I eyed the box suspiciously. What is it? Open it and see. Inside was a phone, expensive, new, clearly top of the line. Luca, I have a phone. That phone is secure. Encrypted, untraceable, with direct lines to me and my security team. Your old phone is vulnerable. He pushed it toward me. I need to be able to reach you always. And I need to know you can reach me if something happens. This is excessive. This is necessary. Sarah, I'm gone sometimes. Business requires it. But I need to know you're safe when I can't be here to see it myself. So you use this phone. Your number is already programmed, along with emergency contacts. If anything happens, anything, you call me. Understood? The intensity in his voice made me nod. Understood. Good. He visibly relaxed. Now about that dinner. Tomorrow night? I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something nice. I don't really have anything nice. Then we'll go shopping first. 6 o'clock tomorrow. I'll pick you up. We'll find you something perfect for dinner. He held up a hand before I could protest. Not a gift. A loan. You can return it after if it makes you feel better. But I want to take you somewhere nice, and you should have something to wear that makes you feel beautiful. You're very pushy. I'm very determined. Different thing. His eyes softened. I missed you. A week felt like a month. You texted me every day. Not the same as seeing you. Hearing your voice. Watching me work. He finished his drink. One more thing before I walk you home. Your ex-husband? He's officially no longer a problem. My heart stopped. What does that mean? It means he signed paperwork agreeing to never contact you, never look for you, never even think about you. He violated a restraining order I had filed on your behalf, and he's now under federal investigation for fraud. He'll be too busy fighting those charges to bother you ever again. You had him investigated? I had him destroyed. No apology in his voice. He hurt you. Threatened you. Made you run and hide and live in fear. That's unacceptable. So I made sure he'd never have the power to hurt anyone again. I should have been horrified. Should have questioned the morality of using that kind of power against someone. But all I felt was relief. Thank you. You don't thank me for protecting you. That's not how this works. He stood, offering his hand. Ready to go home? The walk to my apartment was quiet but comfortable. When we arrived, Luca didn't immediately leave like usual. Instead, he turned to face me on the steps. Sarah, I need to tell you something. About me, about my life, about what being with me means. Okay. I'm not a good man. I've killed people not in self-defense, not accidentally, but deliberately. I run an organization that deals in things that aren't always legal. I have enemies who would hurt anyone I care about to get to me. Being with me, accepting my protection, it puts a target on your back that wasn't there before. I know what you are, Luca. Do you? His hand cupped my face. Because once we cross this line, once we make this official, there's no going back. You become mine completely. Protected, cared for, given everything you need. But also claimed, possessed. Kept. I'm not good at sharing, Sarah. I'm not good at casual. If you're mine forever. That's a lot of pressure for a first date we haven't even had yet. I know. Which is why I'm giving you one more chance to run. After tomorrow, after dinner, I'm not letting you go. So if you have doubts, if you think this is too much, tell me now. I'll back off, leave you alone, let you live your comfortable little life without me in it. I looked at him, really looked at him. Saw past the dangerous crime boss to the man beneath. Someone who'd spent 10 months coming to my bar just to be near me. Who'd protected me without being asked. Who'd destroyed my ex-husband's life to keep me safe. Who was offering me forever without knowing if I'd accept. I'm not running, I said firmly. Not from you. Not anymore. His smile was brilliant and relieved. Thank God, because I've been crazy trying to be patient. Trying to give you space and time to decide. I'm not a patient man, Sarah. Not when it comes to things I want. And I want you more than I've wanted anything in my entire life. That's very intense for someone you've barely had a real conversation with. I've had 10 months of conversations with you. Just not with words. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we go shopping, then dinner, then I'd tell you everything about my life. And then... He paused, his voice dropping lower. Then we decide what comes next. I think I already know what comes next. Do you? His eyes darkened with heat and promise. You said it yourself. I'm yours. Have been since the first night you walked into my bar. I just took a while to catch up. His kiss was claiming and gentle in equal measure. His lips moved against mine with the confidence of a man who knew exactly what he wanted and was finally allowed to take it. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Tomorrow, he said firmly, stepping back before things could escalate. Tomorrow I'll do this properly. Court you like you deserve. But, Sarah? That kiss was a promise. Of what's coming. Of what will be. So prepare yourself. Because I'm about to turn your comfortable little world completely upside down. I'm counting on it. Day 297. Luca picked me up at 6 o'clock sharp in a car that probably cost more than I'd made in my entire life. He wore dark jeans and a black button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing those intricate tattoos that covered his forearms. Casual but devastating. You look nervous, he observed as I slid into the passenger seat. I've never been shopping with a crime boss before. Not really sure of the protocol. The protocol is you let me spoil you and don't argue about prices. His hand found mine, fingers interlacing. I know you're independent. I know you're used to taking care of yourself. But for tonight, just let me do this. Let me give you something nice. The boutique he took me to was the kind of place I'd walk past without ever considering going inside. The kind where dresses cost more than my monthly rent and the salespeople sized you up before deciding if you were worth their time. But when Luca walked in with me on his arm, the entire staff snapped to attention. Mr. Caruso. Welcome. Elegant woman in her 50s approached with a warm smile. We received your call. I have several options prepared in the size you specified. Thank you, Gabriella. He turned to me. This is Sarah. Make her look even more beautiful than she already is. I was whisked away into a dressing room with more square footage than my apartment, surrounded by dresses in jewel tones and classic blacks, all clearly expensive and tailored to perfection. Just try them on, Gabriella encouraged. Don't look at the prices. Mr. Caruso has very specific taste and unlimited budget when it comes to the women in his life. We're not. I didn't know how to finish that sentence. You're here, aren't you? She smiled knowingly. That's all that matters. Now try on the emerald one first. It will look stunning with your coloring. She was right. The emerald dress fit like it had been made for me, sophisticated but not stuffy, elegant but not overdone. When I emerged from the dressing room, Luca's eyes went dark with appreciation. That's the one, he said immediately. We'll take it. Don't you want to see the other options? Gabriella asked. No, that's perfect. His gaze never left me. Sarah, go change. We need to get to dinner. In the car afterward, with the dress carefully packaged in the back seat, I finally asked, how much was it? Doesn't matter. Luca, it doesn't matter, he repeated, his voice firm but gentle. Money is a tool, Sarah. I have more than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Spending it on you, making you happy, that's worth more than whatever number was on that tag. I'm not comfortable with you spending money on me. Then get comfortable. He glanced at me. Because this is who I am. I take care of what's mine. And you, Sarah Mitchell, or whatever your real name is, are mine. That means nice things, safe housing, protection, everything you need. Not because you owe me, not because I expect anything in return. Just because I can and I want to. This is going to take some getting used to. I know. But we have time. He pulled up to a restaurant I'd heard of but never dreamed of entering, the kind of place that required reservations months in advance and had dress codes. Come on, we have the private dining room. No interruptions, no distractions. Just us. The private room was intimate, a single table set for two, soft lighting, a view of the city that took my breath away. As we settled into our seats, wine already poured by an attentive waiter who then disappeared, Luca leaned back and studied me. Ask me anything, he said. About my life, my business, my past. You deserve to know what you're getting into. How did you become this? I gestured vaguely. A crime boss? I inherited it. My father ran the organization before me. When he died 5 years ago, I took over. I was 28, angry and determined to prove I was more than just Antonio Caruso's son. He swirled his wine. I've built the organization into something bigger than what my father left me. More legitimate businesses, better political connections, cleaner operations. But yes, some of what we do is illegal. Mostly money laundering, some smuggling, protection services that technically qualify as extortion. Have you really killed people? Yes, no hesitation. Rivals who threatened my territory. Traitors who betrayed the organization. People who hurt those under my protection. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed either. In my world, you protect what's yours or you lose everything. And I'm yours, not a question. You are! His eyes held mine. Which means anyone who threatens you, anyone who tries to hurt you, they answer to me. I told you what I did to your ex-husband. That wasn't an isolated incident. That's standard procedure for anyone who comes after what's mine. That should scare me. Does it? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, it should, but it doesn't. Maybe that makes me as twisted as you. Or maybe it makes you someone who understands that the world isn't black and white. That sometimes you need a monster to fight monsters. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. Tell me about your real life. Before you became Sarah Mitchell, who were you? Someone naive. I took a sip of wine for courage. My name is actually Sophie. Sophie Anderson. I grew up in a small town, went to college. Got married at 23 because I thought that's what you did. Marcus seemed perfect at first, successful lawyer, charming, attentive. By the time I realized he was controlling and abusive, I was isolated from everyone I knew. How long were you married? 3 years. The first year was okay, subtle manipulation I didn't recognize. The second year got worse, controlling what I wore, who I talked to, where I went. The third year, he hit me for the first time. I stared at my wine glass. I stayed for 6 more months, too scared to leave. Finally got the courage to file for divorce. That's when he told me he'd kill me if I left. Said he'd find me wherever I went and make me regret embarrassing him. But you left anyway. Respect colored his voice. I emptied our joint account, bought a fake ID from someone I met at a women's shelter, and drove for 2 days straight. Ended up here, created Sarah Mitchell, and tried to disappear. I looked up at him. That was 2 years ago. I've been waiting for him to find me ever since. He won't. I promise you that. Luca's grip on my hand tightened. Sophie, that's your real name. It is. But I've been Sarah for so long, it feels real now. Then I'll call you Sarah, or Sophie, or anything else you want. His thumb traced circles on my palm. What matters is you're safe now. Under my protection. And I'm very good at keeping my people safe. Dinner arrived, course after perfect course of Italian cuisine that made me understand why this restaurant was legendary. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. His childhood growing up in the organization. My small-town upbringing. His failed engagement 3 years ago to a woman who couldn't handle his life. My dreams of going to culinary school before Marcus crushed that ambition. You could still do it, Luca said over dessert. Culinary school. I'll pay for it. Set you up with the best instructors. Luca, you can't just pay for everything. Why not? I have the money. You have the dream. Seems simple to me. His eyes challenged me. Unless you're going to let your ex-husband steal that dream forever. Let him win even though he's not here. That stung because it was true. That's manipulative. That's honest. You're good at making drinks, Sarah. I've watched you work for 10 months. You have talent, instinct, passion. Why waste that serving drunks in a dive bar when you could be doing something you actually love? Because culinary school costs money I don't have, but I do. And I want to give it to you. He leaned forward. This is who I am. I take care of what's mine. That means safety. Yes. But it also means helping you become who you're meant to be. Not who Marcus told you you could be. Not who you had to become to survive. But who you actually are underneath all that fear and caution. You barely know who I am. I know enough. I know you're brilliant and brave and so damn stubborn you spent 2 years hiding instead of asking for help. I know you deserve better than pouring drinks until 2 a.m. in a neighborhood where you're not safe. I know you deserve someone who sees your potential and wants to help you reach it. His voice softened. Let me be that someone, Sarah, please. The please broke me again. Okay, but as a loan. I'll pay you back. Absolutely not. As a loan, I insisted. Or I don't accept. Those are my terms. You drive a hard bargain. But he was smiling. Fine. Interest-free loan. Repayment schedule to be determined after you graduate. Deal? Deal. I felt tears threatening. Why are you doing this? Being so generous with someone you barely know? Because I've been watching you for 10 months. Waiting for you to see what I saw from day one, that you're extraordinary. That you deserve everything I can give you and more. And because, he paused, seeming to struggle with the words. Because I'm falling in love with you. Sarah, have been since the first night you poured my drink and gave me that little smile that said you saw a man, not a monster. My breath caught. That's fast. That's honest. I don't do things halfway, Sarah. When I want something, I commit completely. And I want you. Not just for a night or a week or until the novelty wears off. I want forever. Want you in my home, in my life, in my bed. Want to wake up next to you and know that someone understands the darkness I carry. Want to give you everything you've been denied and watch you bloom into who you're meant to be. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of honesty. He stood, moving around the table to kneel beside my chair. I'm not asking you to love me back right now. I'm just asking you to give this a chance. Give us a chance. Move in with me, let me protect you properly. Let me help you build the life you deserve. And maybe eventually you'll feel what I feel. But even if you don't, even if you never love me the way I love you, I'll still protect you. Still care for you. Still give you everything I can. Because that's what you do when someone becomes yours. I looked down at him, this dangerous, powerful man kneeling at my feet and offering me the world, and felt something shift inside me. Fear giving way to possibility. Caution giving way to hope. Okay, I whispered. I'll move in. I'll give us a chance. But Luca, I need you to understand, I'm broken. Marcus broke something in me. I don't know if I can love someone properly anymore. Don't know if I can trust that completely. Then I'll wait until you can. He pressed a kiss to my hand. However long it takes, Sarah, I'm a patient man when it matters. And you matter more than anything. You said you weren't patient. I lied. For you, I'll be as patient as necessary. He stood, pulling me to my feet. Come home with me tonight. See the space, see if you can imagine yourself there. No pressure, no expectations, just ... possibility. I should have said no. Should have taken things slower, maintained boundaries, protected myself from getting hurt again. But looking at Luca, seeing genuine love and devotion in his dark eyes, I found I didn't want to protect myself anymore. I wanted to live. Really live. For the first time in years. Okay, take me home. His smile was brilliant. Your wish is my command. Day 297. Continued. Luca's penthouse was everything I expected, and nothing I was prepared for. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city sprawling below like a constellation of lights. The space was masculine, but elegant dark leather furniture, rich wood accents, artwork that looked expensive and original. But it was the details that caught my attention. Books stacked on side tables, a well-worn guitar in the corner, photographs in simple frames showing people who clearly mattered to him. This is beautiful, I said, moving toward the windows. And terrifying. How high up are we? 42nd floor. He came to stand beside me, his hand finding the small of my back. Does heights bother you? Only when I remember I'm standing on a thin piece of glass 42 stories above the ground. I press my palm against the window, cool against my skin. But the view is worth the terror. Agreed. But when I glanced at him, he wasn't looking at the city. He was looking at me. You're staring again. I'm appreciating. His hand slid around my waist, pulling me closer. Can't help it. You're in my home, wearing a dress I bought you, looking at me like maybe I'm not completely insane for wanting this. Hard not to appreciate that. You are a little insane. Completely insane, he corrected. But you're here anyway, which makes you either brave or crazy yourself. Probably both. I leaned into him, letting myself relax against his solid presence. Show me the rest? If I'm going to live here, I should see more than just the living room. His arm tightened around me. You mean it? You're really moving in? I said I would. I don't say things I don't mean. I turned to face him. But Luca, we need to establish some ground rules. I need my own space, at least initially. I can't just jump into sharing a bedroom with you. Too fast, too much. Guest room is yours for as long as you need it. No hesitation. I told you I'm patient when it matters. Though I reserve the right to eventually seduce you into my bed. Fair warning appreciated. I pulled away, needing to maintain some distance. What else is here? He gave me a tour, his office with multiple computer screens and security feeds, a gym that looked like it belonged in a professional facility, a kitchen that made my bartender heart ache with jealousy. And then the bedrooms. This is mine. He opened a door to reveal a massive space dominated by a king-sized bed with dark bedding. Masculine, organized, with minimal decoration except for a photo on the nightstand, a beautiful dark-haired woman smiling at the camera. Who was she? I asked, though I already knew. The failed engagement he'd mentioned. Isabella. We were together 3 years, engaged for 6 months before she died. His jaw tightened. Car accident. Wrong place, wrong time. She was coming to meet me for dinner when a rival family decided to send a message by running her off the road. Luca, I'm so sorry. It's been 3 years. I've made peace with it. But the pain in his eyes said otherwise. I tell you this because you should know I don't love easily, Sarah. When I commit to someone, it's completely. Isabella was the last woman I let get close before you. And losing her nearly destroyed me. And you're willing to risk that again? With me? Yes. He turned to face me fully. Because you're worth the risk. Worth potentially being destroyed again if it means having you in my life. The weight of that declaration settled over me. No pressure, right? All the pressure. But he smiled. Come on. Let me show you your room. The guest room was as large as his, with its own ensuite bathroom and a closet that opened to reveal clothes already hanging my size. My style, clearly prepared in advance. When did you have time to do this? I asked, touching a soft sweater. I've been planning this for weeks. Hoping you'd say yes, preparing for the possibility. He leaned against the doorframe. The bathroom has everything you need, toiletries, towels, whatever. Make yourself comfortable. This is your space, Sarah. Your sanctuary. I won't enter without permission. Thank you. I meant it. For respecting my boundaries. For not pushing. I told you I'm patient. He checked his watch. It's late. You should get some rest. I have an early meeting tomorrow, but I'll be back by noon. We can move your things from your apartment then if you're ready. That fast? Your lease is up in 2 months anyway. Why wait? His logic was sound. Besides, the sooner you're here, the sooner I can stop worrying about you in that neighborhood. I've been fine there for 2 years, and you'll be better here. End of discussion. He moved to leave, then paused. Sarah, thank you. For giving me a chance. For trusting me enough to come here. I know I'm asking a lot. You are. But I'm saying yes anyway. I moved closer, standing on tiptoe to press a kiss to his cheek. Good night, Luca. His hand came up to cup my face, holding me there for a moment. Good night, Sophie. Sleep well. You're safe here. After he left, I explored my new room, my new sanctuary. The bed was impossibly soft, the bathroom stocked with luxury products I'd never been able to afford. Everything designed for comfort, for safety, for making me feel at home. I changed into the silk pajamas I found in the dresser, my size, of course, and climbed into bed. My phone buzzed. A text from Luca. I'm right next door if you need anything. Sleep well, beautiful. I saved the message and typed back. Thank you for tonight. For everything. This is all overwhelming but good overwhelming. His response was immediate. Take all the time you need to adjust. No rush, no pressure. Just glad you're here. I fell asleep in the most comfortable bed I'd ever experienced. Feeling safer than I had in years. Day 298 I woke to the smell of fresh coffee and the sound of movement in the kitchen. For a disoriented moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then memory returned Luca's penthouse, my new home. The complete upheaval of my life in less than 24 hours. I found Luca in the kitchen, dressed for business in a dark suit, making breakfast. He looked up when I entered, and his smile was warm and genuine. Good morning. Sleep well? Better than I have in years. I accepted the coffee he poured for me, perfectly prepared with cream, just how I liked it. You didn't have to make breakfast. I wanted to. Besides, I like cooking. Don't get to do it often. He plated eggs and toast with practiced ease. Eat, I have to leave soon, but I wanted to see you before I go. We ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before he spoke again. I've been thinking about your work situation. The bar. What about it? You should quit, today. At my shocked expression, he continued, not because I'm controlling or don't want you working, but because that neighborhood isn't safe, the hours are terrible, and you deserve better. I'll cover your expenses while you start culinary school. You can focus on studying instead of working double shifts. Luca, I can't just quit. Why not? You don't need the money anymore. And before you argue about independence or pride, think about it logically. You're starting a new chapter. New home, new goals, new life. Why carry the old one with you? He had a point, but it felt wrong to just quit. What about Jenna? She depends on me for shifts. I'll hire 2 people to replace you and give her a raise. She'd be fine. He checked his watch. I have to go. Think about it today. We can discuss it more tonight. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. Make yourself at home. The kitchen is yours to experiment in. There's a gym if you want to work out, and my office is available if you need a computer. I'll text you when I'm on my way back. After he left, I explored the penthouse more thoroughly. The kitchen was a chef's dream, professional-grade appliances. Every tool imaginable, a pantry stocked with ingredients I'd only dreamed of using. I found myself pulling out flour, eggs, butter. Decided to make something as a thank you for Luca's hospitality. I was elbow deep in dough when my phone rang. Unknown number? Hello? Is this Sarah Mitchell? A man's voice, cold and professional. Who's asking? My name is Detective James Morrison, Chicago PD. I'm calling regarding Marcus Kane. He listed you as his emergency contact. My heart stopped. Why are you calling me? We're not together anymore. I'm aware. But Mr. Kane was found dead in his apartment this morning. Apparent suicide. We're calling all listed contacts to notify them. Dead. Marcus was dead. How, when? I couldn't form coherent questions. Gunshot wound to the head. Based on the scene, we're estimating sometime last night. I'm sorry for your loss. Ms. Mitchell, if you have any information that might be relevant to our investigation. No, nothing. We haven't spoken in 2 years. I hung up. My hands shaking. Marcus was dead. The man who'd terrorized me, who'd made me run and hide and live in fear, dead. Suicide, the detective said. But I knew better. I called Luca immediately. He answered on the first ring. Sarah? What's wrong? Marcus is dead. The police called. They said suicide, but I know it was you. Not on the phone. His voice was sharp. I'm coming home. Don't talk to anyone until I get there. Understood? He arrived within 20 minutes, still in his suit, but with urgency in his movements. He found me in the kitchen, the abandoned dough a testament to my interrupted baking. Tell me exactly what they said. He was all business now, no warmth or gentleness. I recounted the call word for word. When I finished, Luca pulled out his phone, made a quick call in Italian, then turned back to me. I didn't kill him. Luca, I'm serious. I was going to, eventually. Had it planned out for next month, make it look like an accident. But someone beat me to it. His expression was dark. Someone else wanted Marcus Kane dead. Who? That's what I need to find out. He moved to his office, gesturing for me to follow. This is either a coincidence, which I don't believe in, or someone is sending me a message. Someone knows you're with me and decided to eliminate a potential problem. A problem? Your ex-husband was a loose end. Someone who could be used against you, against me. By killing him, someone either did me a favor or sent a warning. He pulled up security footage on his computer. I need to know which. This is insane. People don't just kill other people to send messages. In my world, they do. All the time. His eyes met mine. Sarah, I need you to think. Is there anyone from your past who might have done this? Anyone who knew about Marcus knew you were hiding from him? No, I didn't tell anyone except you. I didn't have anyone to tell. But doubt crept in. Unless, when I got my fake ID, the woman at the shelter, she knew I was running from an abusive husband. But that was 2 years ago. Name? I don't remember. Maria something? She ran the women's shelter in Chicago. That's all I know. Luca was already typing, pulling up information faster than should be possible. Maria Castellano. Runs a shelter funded by the Castellano family. He looked up at me, something like recognition in his eyes. The Castellanos are allies. Old family, legitimate operations, they fund charities like that shelter. If Maria helped you, she might have mentioned you to them. Why would they care about me? Because now you're with me. And helping the girlfriend of an ally is good politics. He stood, moving to pace. I'll reach out to them, find out if they were involved. In the meantime, you don't talk to the police if they call again. You refer them to my lawyer. Understood? Luca, I don't want people dying because of me. Marcus Kane was going to die anyway. I'd made that decision weeks ago. Someone just expedited the timeline. His hands found my shoulders. I need you to understand something. You're under my protection now. That means people will look at you differently. See you as valuable. Some will want to curry favor by helping you. Others will want to hurt me. This is the world you've entered by being with me. This is insane. This is reality. He pulled me close, his arms around me. But I promise you, no one will hurt you. Not while I'm breathing. Marcus is dead, which means that threat is eliminated. And anyone else who tries to come after you will meet the same fate. You can't protect me from everything. Watch me. His voice was absolute certainty. You're mine, Sarah, and I protect what's mine. Always. Day 302, 4 days after Marcus's death, I was still processing what it meant to be under Luca's protection. To have someone care enough to eliminate threats before I even knew they existed. To live in a world where violence was currency and loyalty was everything. I'd quit the bar. Luca had been right. There was no reason to keep working those brutal hours when I was starting culinary school in 2 weeks. Jenna had been shocked but understanding, especially after Luca tripled her salary and hired 2 people to cover my shifts. He really loves you, she'd said during my last shift. I can see it in the way he looks at you. Like you're the most important thing in his entire world. Was it love? Or was it possession? I was beginning to understand they might be the same thing in Luca's world. I was in his kitchen, my kitchen now. I suppose testing a new pasta recipe when he came home early. I heard the door open, heard his voice speaking rapid Italian on the phone. Then silence. Something smells incredible, he said, appearing in the kitchen doorway. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves, and looked tired but pleased to be home. Carbonara. The real way, not the American cream version. I stirred the sauce carefully. How was your day? Productive. We found out who killed Marcus. He poured himself a scotch, leaning against the counter. It was the Castellanos, like I thought. Maria from the shelter contacted them when she heard you were with me. They saw Marcus as a threat to their Eli's relationship and eliminated him. My stomach churned. As a favor to me, yes. It's how our world works. Alliances are maintained through actions, not words. They removed a problem, earned my gratitude, strengthened our relationship. He took a sip of his drink. I sent them a gift as thanks. Very expensive wine, a donation to Maria's shelter, and a promise of future cooperation. You're not bothered that they killed someone? I'm bothered they did it without asking me first. But no, I'm not upset Marcus is dead. He hurt you. He deserved what he got. His eyes held mine. Does that make you think less of me? That I'm grateful someone eliminated your abusive ex-husband? I turned off the stove, the pasta ready but suddenly unappetizing. I don't know what to think. Part of me is relieved he's gone. Part of me is horrified people can just be killed like that, like it's nothing. It's not nothing. But it's necessary. He set down his glass, moving closer. In my world, Sarah, you protect what's yours with absolute certainty. Half measures get people killed. Mercy gets people killed. So when someone threatens what's mine, I eliminate that threat completely, permanently. And I'm yours. You are. No hesitation. Which means anyone who threatens you, hurts you, even thinks about hurting you, they answer to me. The Castellanos understood that. Acted on it. I'm grateful. I stared at him, this man who spoke of murder with the same casualness most people discuss the weather. This is my life now, isn't it? Violence and protection and debts owed in blood. This is your life if you stay with me. He cupped my face. I won't lie and say it gets easier. It doesn't. But it does become normal. And Sarah, you have to decide if you can accept that. Accept me. Accept what being mine actually means. What if I can't? Pain flickered across his features. Then I'll let you go. Give you money, a new identity if you want, protection from a distance. You'll be safe, taken care of, but not mine. Not in the way I want you to be. You'd really let me go? If that's what you need to be happy. His thumb traced my lower lip. But I'm hoping you won't ask me to. Hoping you'll stay. Give us a real chance. I thought about the past 10 months. The routine of his visits, the safety I'd felt when he started walking me home, the way he'd protected me without asking for anything in return. The way he'd given me this beautiful home planned for my future. Eliminated threats I hadn't even known existed. He was dangerous, violent, possessive to an extreme that should terrify me, but he was also gentle with me, patient, willing to wait for me to be ready. And for the first time in years, I felt truly safe. "I'm staying," I said, finally. "But Luca, I need you to promise me something. Anything. No more surprises. If someone else dies because of me, because of us, I need to know about it. No protecting me from the truth. I can handle it, but I can't handle being kept in the dark." "Deal," he kissed me softly. "Full transparency. Even when the truth is ugly. Especially when it's ugly." I pulled back slightly. "Now eat." I made too much carbonara and I'm not eating alone. We ate at his dining table, our dining table, and talked about mundane things. My culinary school enrollment, his upcoming business trip to New York, the book I'd started reading from his collection. Normal couple conversation, except we weren't a normal couple. "Move into my room," Luca said suddenly between bites of pasta. "What?" "Move into my bedroom. With me. Not just your things, but you. Sleep in my bed, wake up beside me, let me hold you at night." His eyes held mine. "I've been patient. Given you space, let you adjust. But Sarah, I want you in my bed. Want to fall asleep with you and wake up knowing you're there. Want that intimacy. Luca, I'm not asking for sex. Not until you're ready. But I am asking for closeness. For the chance to hold you, to feel you beside me, to know you're really mine and not just staying in my guest room like a temporary visitor." His voice roughened with emotion. "Please, I need that." "Need you." The vulnerability in his admission broke down my last walls. Okay. Hope lit his features. "Okay, I'll move into your room tonight, but we're taking things slow physically. I'm not ready for more than sleeping beside you. I'll take what you're willing to give." He stood, pulling me to my feet. "Come on. Let's move your things now before you change your mind." "I'm not going to change my mind. I'm not taking that chance." But he was smiling. Genuine joy transforming his usually serious face. We moved my clothes from the guest room to his bedroom, hanging them beside his in the massive closet. My toiletries went into his bathroom, my books onto his nightstand. Slowly, his space became ours. "There," he said, surveying the changes. "Now it looks like you actually live here. I do live here. In my space, not just occupying it. There's a difference." He pulled me close, his arms around my waist. "Thank you. For staying, for giving me this, for being brave enough to let me in. You're the one who pushed his way in." But I was smiling. I was perfectly content serving drinks and avoiding emotional entanglements. Lies. You were lonely and scared and living half a life. Now you're here. Safe, planning a future. That's not avoidance. That's living. He was right, damn him. You're very wise for a crime boss. I'm very motivated when it comes to you. He pressed a kiss to my temple. "Now it's late. Let's go to bed." The phrase was simple, but the reality was complicated. I changed into pajamas in the bathroom, giving myself a pep talk in the mirror. It's just sleeping. Just sharing a bed. Nothing more. But when I emerged and saw Luca already in bed, wearing only sweatpants, his tattooed chest on full display, my breath caught. He was beautiful in a dangerous way, all muscle and ink and barely contained power. "You're staring," he observed, patting the bed beside him. "You're half naked." "I sleep like this. But I can put on a shirt if it makes you uncomfortable." "No, you're fine." I climbed into bed, hyper-aware of him beside me. The bed was huge, but he immediately closed the distance, pulling me against him. "Is this okay?" He murmured against my hair. "It was more than okay. It felt right in a way nothing had in years. Safe and warm and protected. It's perfect. Good." His arm tightened around me. "Sleep, Sarah, I've got you." I drifted off to the sound of his breathing, feeling his heartbeat against my back, and for the first time in 2 years, I didn't have nightmares. Day 315, 2 weeks of sleeping beside Luca had changed everything. I'd gotten used to his presence, to the way he held me at night, to waking up with his arms around me. We'd fallen into a routine. He'd leave early for work. I'd spend the day cooking or reading or preparing for culinary school. He'd come home and we'd have dinner together. It was domestic and comfortable and absolutely terrifying in its intensity. I have to go to New York tomorrow, he said over dinner one night. Business meetings, probably 3 days. You'll stay here, security team will be on high alert, and I'll call you every night. I could come with you. The offer surprised me as much as it seemed to surprise him. You want to come? I've never been to New York and ... I hesitated. I don't want to be apart from you for 3 days. His smile was brilliant. Pack a bag. Pack a bag. We leave at 8 and New York was a whirlwind. Luca had meetings during the day, but the nights were ours. He took me to restaurants I'd only read about, showed me the city from perspectives tourists never saw, introduced me to people as my Sarah with obvious pride and possession. On the second night, after an incredible dinner in Little Italy, we were walking back to the hotel when he pulled me into a quiet alley. I need to tell you something, he said, his hands framing my face. And I need you to really hear me. Okay, I love you. Completely. Obsessively. In ways that probably aren't healthy, but I don't care. You've become my entire world, Sarah. My reason for coming home, my motivation for being better, my everything. His eyes held mine, fierce and vulnerable. I know you're not there yet. Know you need time to trust that completely. But I needed you to know. Needed you to understand how serious I am about us. Luca, you don't have to say it back. I'm not asking you to. I just needed you to know that this isn't temporary for me. Isn't casual. This is forever if you'll have me. This is me laying everything at your feet and hoping you'll choose to stay. I looked at him, this dangerous, powerful man who'd upended my life and made me feel things I'd thought were dead, and felt something shift inside me. Fear giving way to possibility. Caution giving way to hope. I think I love you too, I whispered. It terrifies me, but I think I do. Yeah. His smile was brilliant and relieved. Even knowing what I am? What I do. Maybe because of what you are. Because you're dangerous enough to protect me, ruthless enough to eliminate threats, but gentle enough to wait for me to be ready. I touched his face. You're complicated, Luca Caruso. But you're mine. I am. Completely and irrevocably yours. He kissed me then, deep and claiming, and I let myself sink into it. Let myself feel the want and need and love that had been building between us for months. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Take me back to the hotel, I said. I'm ready. For all of it. Sarah, we don't have to. I know. But I want to. Want you. Want this. I kissed him again. Take me to bed, Luca. Make me yours completely. His eyes darkened with heat and promise. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Day 315 continued. The hotel room was luxury incarnate, floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the Manhattan skyline. A bed that looked like it belonged in a palace. Ambient lighting that set the mood without being obvious. But I'd barely noticed any of it. All I could focus on was Luca, the way he looked at me like I was precious and desired in equal measure. Last chance to change your mind, he said, his hands on my waist, warm through the fabric of my dress. We can stop any time. Just say the word. I don't want to stop. I reached up, starting to unbutton his shirt. I want this. Want you. All of you. He caught my hands, stilling them. Sarah, I need you to understand something. I've wanted you for almost a year. Fantasized about this moment more times than I can count. And now that it's happening, I'm going to take my time. Going to learn every inch of you, what makes you gasp, what makes you beg. This isn't going to be quick or simple. Understood? Heat flooded through me at his words. Understood. Good. He released my hands, stepping back to shrug out of his jacket. Undress for me, slowly. I want to watch. The command should have made me self-conscious. Instead, it made me feel powerful. I reached for the zipper of my dress, pulling it down with deliberate slowness, letting the fabric slide off my shoulders and pool at my feet. I stood in my underwear, simple black lace. Nothing special, but the way Luca looked at me made me feel like the most beautiful woman alive. Perfect, he murmured, his eyes tracking over me with obvious appreciation. You're absolutely perfect, Sarah. Your turn, I managed, my voice shakier than I wanted, He unbuttoned his shirt with practiced ease, revealing the tattooed chest I'd seen before but never touched. I moved closer, my hands finding warm skin and hard muscle, tracing the ink that covered him. "What do these mean?" I asked, following a particularly intricate design. "Family crest. Names of people I've lost. Dates that mattered." His hands found my waist again, pulling me flush against him. "Each one tells a story. Someday I'll tell you all of them. But right now, I have more important things to focus on." He kissed me, deep and claiming, his tongue sweeping into my mouth with confidence that stole my breath. His hands moved up my back, unclasping my bra with practiced ease, and suddenly there was nothing between us but skin and heat and need. "Bed," he growled against my lips. "Now!" I let him guide me backward until my knees hit the mattress. He laid me down gently, his body covering mine, his weight pressing me into the soft bedding. For a moment, panic flared memories of Marcus, of being pinned and helpless and hurt. "Sarah!" Luca's voice cut through the panic. "Look at me. You're safe. I've got you. We stop the second you want to. Okay." I focused on his face, on the genuine concern in his dark eyes. This wasn't Marcus. This was Luca, who'd protected me, waited for me, loved me without demanding anything in return. "I'm okay," I breathed. "Just old memories." "Keep going. You sure?" "I'm sure." I pulled him down for another kiss. "Make new memories with me. Better ones." He did. Slowly, carefully, he mapped my body with hands and lips and tongue, finding spots that made me gasp, that made me arch into his touch. He was patient and demanding in equal measure, building pleasure with the precision of someone who'd studied exactly what I needed. By the time he finally moved inside me, I was trembling with want and need and something deeper: trust. Complete, absolute trust that he would never hurt me, would always protect me, would always put my pleasure before his own. "I love you," he murmured against my throat as we moved together. "God, Sarah, I love you so much." "I love you too," I gasped, the words surprising me with their truth. "Luca, I love you too." He made love to me like I was precious, like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. And when we finally fell apart together, both of us gasping and clinging to each other, I knew with absolute certainty that this was where I belonged. In his arms. In his life. In his dangerous, complicated, beautiful world. Day 365, 1 year. That's how long it had been since Luca first walked into Midnight Lounge and ordered his Macallan 25. 1 year of slow-burning tension, careful courtship, and building trust. Now I stood in his penthouse, our penthouse, wearing a simple white dress and holding a bouquet of roses. He'd surprised me with this morning. No big wedding, no elaborate ceremony. Just us, a judge who owed Luca a favor, and a handful of witnesses including Jenna and Marco, Luca's second-in-command. "You ready for this?" Luca asked, looking devastating in a black suit that probably cost more than my old car. "Last chance to run. I'm not running." I took his hand, feeling the solid weight of the engagement ring he'd given me last month. Simple band with a diamond that caught the light perfectly. "Not from you. Not ever." The ceremony was short and sweet. We exchanged vows we'd written ourselves, his promising protection and devotion, mine promising trust and love. When the judge pronounced us married, Luca kissed me like we were the only two people in the world. "Mrs. Caruso," he murmured against my lips. "Mine. Yours," I agreed. Completely. The reception was equally small, just dinner at Rosa's restaurant with the people who mattered most. Rosa cried and called me Bambina and insisted on making all our favorite dishes. Jenna got drunk and gave a speech about how she knew from the first time she saw us together that we were meant to be. "He looked at you like you were the answer to every question he'd ever asked," she said, tears streaming down her face. "And you looked at him like maybe he wasn't the monster everyone said he was." That's love, you guys. Real, messy, complicated love. She was right. What Luca and I had was complicated. It was built on violence and protection, on obsession and possession, on a year of careful patience and building trust. It wasn't normal or safe or anything close to conventional, but it was ours. And that made it perfect. Later that night, back in our penthouse, Luca carried me over the threshold even though we'd been living there for months. "Tradition," he explained, setting me down gently. "My wife deserves every tradition. Your wife." I tested the words. Still sounds strange. Get used to it. You're stuck with me now. He pulled me close, his hands finding my waist. Forever, Sarah, you're mine forever. And you're mine. I reached up to loosen his tie. No, going back. Wouldn't want to. He kissed me softly. I'd been waiting a year to call you my wife. Best day of my life, hands down. Better than the day I agreed to move in. Better than any day before this one. His forehead rested against mine. Thank you. For trusting me, for loving me, for choosing to stay despite knowing exactly what I am. You're my husband. You're my husband. You're my husband. The man I love. That's what you are. I kissed him deeply. Everything else is just details. We made love that night as husband and wife, and it felt different somehow. More binding, more permanent, more real. Afterward, lying in his arms with the city lights twinkling outside our windows, I reflected on the past year. I'd come to that bar running from my past, hiding from a man who'd hurt me, living half a life out of fear. Now I was married to a crime boss, living in a penthouse, about to graduate from culinary school with honors. I had protection, purpose, and most importantly, love. What are you thinking? Luca murmured, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my bare shoulder. About how much has changed in a year. How different my life is now. Better or worse? Better, infinitely better. I turned to face him. I was so scared when you first started paying attention to me. Scared of you, of what you represented, of getting hurt again. And now? Now I can't imagine my life without you. I touched his face, feeling stubble rough under my palm. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Luca Caruso. Even though you're controlling and possessive and probably too protective for anyone's good. I prefer the term devoted, but he was smiling. And you love that I'm possessive. Admit it, maybe a little. I kissed him softly. Though I draw the line at you buying any more buildings I happen to live in. No promises. I like owning things connected to you. His arm tightened around me. Speaking of which, I have a wedding present for you. You already gave me a present. The culinary school tuition, remember? That was months ago. This is different. He reached into the knit stand, pulling out an envelope. Open it. Inside were keys and a deed. To a restaurant. In my name, Luca, this is too much. It's yours. A space to create, to build something of your own. I bought the building, but the restaurant is entirely yours. The concept, the menu, the design, everything. My wedding gift to my talented wife. His eyes held mine. You graduate in 2 months. I want you to have somewhere to practice your craft. Somewhere that's completely yours. Tears threatened. I don't know what to say. Say you'll name a dish after me. Something Italian and delicious. He was joking, but I heard the vulnerability beneath. Say you'll let me support your dreams the way you support mine. I will. All of it. I set down the envelope, throwing my arms around him. Thank you. For believing in me, for seeing potential I didn't know I had, for giving me the courage to build something. You had the courage all along. I just gave you the opportunity to use it. He held me close. That's what partners do, Sarah. We lift each other up. Make each other better. Build something together that neither of us could build alone. Is that what we are? Partners? Partners. Husband and wife. Best friends, lovers. All of it. He pulled back to look at me. Everything, Sarah. That's what we are to each other. Everything. 1 year LAT, or my restaurant, Sapore, I'd named it Italian for flavor, was thriving. Reservations booked months in advance, rave reviews in every publication, even whispers of a Michelin star. I worked long hours, poured my heart into every dish, and loved every exhausting minute. Luca supported it all. He'd show up for dinner service sometimes, sitting in his corner table with that same scotch he'd been drinking for 2 years, watching me work with obvious pride. He never interfered, never tried to control, just protected from the shadows and celebrated my success. We'd settled into married life with surprising ease. Mornings together before I left for the restaurant, late nights when I'd come home exhausted and he'd massage my aching feet. Sundays off when we'd cook together or just exist in comfortable silence. It was domestic and beautiful and everything I'd never thought I could have. Happy anniversary, Luca said one Tuesday morning, the 2-year mark since he'd first walked into that bar. 2 years since you poured me my first drink. 2 years since you started stalking me, you mean? But I was smiling. I prefer persistent courtship. He pulled me into his arms. Best 2 years of my life, Sarah Caruso. Mine too. I kissed him softly. Even though you're controlling and possessive, and devoted and protective and madly in love with you, he finished. Don't forget those parts. Never. I rested my head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. I love you, Luca, my patient, obsessive, dangerous husband. I love you too, Sarah, my brave, talented, beautiful wife. His arms tightened around me. Forever. Forever, I agreed, and I meant it. This man who'd walked into a bar one Tuesday night and changed my life completely. Who'd waited a year for me to see what he'd seen from the start, that we were meant to be together, who'd given me safety, purpose, and love in equal measure, my husband. My protector. My home, forever.